Hey bag ladies and bag dudes, today I'm going to be talking about the boxing corner template, my Camp Stitch-A-Lot bag, Decadence Fabrics by Caterina Roccella for Art Gallery Fabrics, dog applique quilt patterns. I'll be giving a demonstration on how to add side pockets to any bag, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everyone, happy Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday. I saw everyone chatting on Facebook and YouTube before the chat. I see Alexandra, Debbie, I saw Michelle in the comments before too. So thanks so much everyone for joining me. So just as a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Social Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And also everything that I'm scheduling myself to talk about, I link to in the description. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the projects, fabrics, notions, or books that I talk about during Social Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more from there. All right, so my favorite part of Social Sunday is the notion of the week. And this week I wanted to show you two new acrylic templates that we got in the shop. So this is a set of two. These are the boxing corner templates, and I thought since it's a new product and it's not necessarily self-explanatory, I wanted to show you how to use both of these templates on the show. So by boxing corners, I mean corners like this, which are squared off. So this is my Annex double zip box pouch, and this project is made basically with just a front and a back fabric, and everything comes together three-dimensionally through the use of those boxing corners. So this project is made using one technique for boxing corners, and I pulled out another one. You may have already made my airplane bag, but again, this is a project that comes together with just the front and the back fabrics, and through the use of, again, of those boxing corners, you get the three-dimensional bag. So I used two different techniques in both of these projects, and the reason that I use these different techniques is because in my patterns, oftentimes I like to show you how to do the same thing in multiple different ways to give you that technique in your bag making toolbox so that you can go forward and make projects using those techniques, and especially if you know how to do them several ways, you can pick your favorite way and use that going forward. So there's not necessarily one of these boxing techniques that I like better than the other. They're just two different ways to get at the same outcome, and so I wanted to show you how to use these templates to get at the same outcome through the boxing corner. So let me show you in the side camera close up of what the templates look like. So here's the square template, and this is the second one, this is the triangle. All right, so as you'll notice for the square boxing corner template, the inches are represented right here. So here's 1 inch, 2 inch, and so on. And there's also tick marks for your 1/4 inches, 1/2 inches, 3/4 of an inch. So if you're not working off an exact, say, 2 inch measurement, you still can use this template to box your corners. So the triangle boxing corner template is a little bit different, so we'll be measuring up from this long straight edge. So here's our 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and so on, and again there's tick marks for 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and you'll be measuring up from here, and you can easily fit your fabric in these cutouts for the triangles over here. So let me show you the first technique using this square boxing corner template. So I went ahead and prepared sort of some step outs before the show. So this is to represent what you would do with your fabric when preparing to box a corner. So I've gone ahead and taken two pieces of fabric and sewn them right sides together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I've only sewn the sides and the bottom, which is to replicate what you would do when you would be boxing corners in a bag. So I'm going to go ahead and take my template, and I've just arbitrarily decided to go with the 2 inches. So I'm going to line that 2 inch marking in the corner of my project, and you can certainly use a rotary cutter here. I'm going to use my fabric marker and scissors, and I'm just going to draw that 2 inch square in the corner of my fabric as you see here. Okay, I'm going to flip the template over, and I'm going to do the same thing in the opposing corner. Okay, so now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut both of these tiny squares out of my fabric. So as you'll notice, as I cut through the corner, I'm cutting my stitching over here, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but we'll need to reinforce that corner so the stitches don't come open when we try to pinch the corners and sew those boxing corners in place. Okay, so this is what your fabric will look like. You'll have those two squares cut out from the bottom. Okay, so here's my next step out, and as you can see, this is the corner where the square has been cut out, and I went ahead and just backstitched a few times back and forth to reinforce that edge here and over here, just so when I pinch my corners, the fabric doesn't start to come apart. So let me show you now how we're going to pinch these corners. So you're just going to line up the cut edges. First off, we're going to start with having this seam over here right on top of this seam, and I'm just going to use my fingers to press that seam open with my hands. And you want to make sure the seams are right on top of each other as they are right here. I'm going to go ahead and put a wonder clip on the seam. And you want to make sure that the rest of the fabric is right sides together, and you want it to be a straight edge. You don't want the fabric to be bowed down like this or out like that, because then when the project is finished, you'll get sort of a curved edge. Okay, so the next step here after we pin this edge is you're going to sew, and I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance for this sample, so you're going to go ahead and sew this edge using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I actually went ahead and did that on the opposing corner already just so that you could see what it looks like. So here's my corner that I pinched in, and as you can see, I sewed that 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you'll do the stitching on this side as well as the opposing side, and let me flip it right side out and show you what that corner looks like. So as you recall, I was using the 2 inch marking on my boxing corner template, and generally if you're using that 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're just going to double that measurement for the finished width of your side panel when your, let's call this a gusset, is sewn in place. So I'm going to take my ruler and show you that is indeed 4 inches wide. So easy tip, just take that measurement on the boxing corner. I went with 2 inches, double it, and that'll give you the finished width of the side. So this is, visualize, that's the side of your bag. And to make everything look a little bit more crisp, I find it helpful to use the precision turning tool to poke out your corners, just so you get nice crisp corners before you poke them out. It's not as urgent here because I don't have any interfacing attached to my fabric, but once you get interfacing, it makes everything bulkier, and even more important to get a nice pressed edge right there. So the nice thing about this tool, instead of a pointy tip, it's got this metal round ball, and this tool is made from a single piece of metal, and so this round ball gently pokes the corners out so that you get a nice crisp corner. Okay, so that was the first boxing corner done with that square template. Now I'm going to show you how to use the second in the set of 2, and this is for the triangle template. So again, I've got my fabric sample prepped, and I've gone ahead and sewn using 1/2 inch seam allowance the side and the bottom edges. The next step, and obviously this is a little bit different from that square boxing corner template, you're going to pinch the edges so that the side seam is right on top of the seam on the bottom. So I'm just going ahead and pinching those fabrics, and you can either feel the seams with your fingers to make sure they're on top of each other, or what I like to do is I like to stick a pin through one side and make sure the pin comes up from the other side in the exact same spot to make sure that you have your seams right on top of each other. Okay, so I'm going to flatten this out, and obviously it's a little bit easier since I don't have interfacing here. Interfacing just makes things a little bit thicker. I'm going to take that template, and again I'm going to use the 2 inch markings on this template right here. So I'm going to make sure that that 2 inch mark is right where the top of my stitching line is. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up, and as you can see, the triangle markings on the template should line up with the side edges of your fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and take my fabric marker again and draw just a line straight across that straight edge. Okay, so instead of cutting, this time I'm going to stitch directly on top of the line, and I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, so this side and the opposing side as well. So stitching right on top of the line, and I've gone ahead and prepared a fabric sample with both of those corners done. So here's what the corner looks like As you can see from my dark blue stitches, here's my stitching line. I stitched right on top of the line that I drew, and I did the same thing for the other side. But for this particular technique, you don't want to leave that extra dog ear of fabric hanging because that creates a lot of extra bulk in the corner of your bag. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to trim that corner to within about 1/4 of an inch of the stitching line. So that reduces all that extra bulk right there. Okay, and I'm going to use that precision turning tool to turn my fabric piece right side out. And again, if you noticed, we used that 2-inch marking on the template, and the width of that side panel in the bag is going to be 4 inches. So double whatever measurement that you used on the template, and that measures, if I press that correctly, it'll be approximately 4 inches right there. Okay, so those are the two different techniques for using those two boxing corner templates. Again, we have these in the shop in a set of 2, so if you like having different sewing gadgets and helpful tools, you may be interested in the boxing corners. And again, these templates create projects such as this and form your 2 pieces of fabric, front and back fabric, into an actual 3-dimensional project. So I had an email a couple of days ago from Tiara Hughes, and
Sarah, wait 1 second.
Oh, Danny has a comment to put on the screen. Tina wants to know, do you use the templates from the thread line or the edge of the fabric? That's a great question. So for the boxing corner in the demonstration, I lined up the edge of the acrylic with the edge of the fabric. And then when I used the boxing corner template, you can do either. So in the airplane bag sewing pattern, I have you measure from the very tip of the fabric. If you want to have double your measurement, like I mentioned in the demonstration where I used the 2-inch line to get the 4-inch side panel width. So you can do either for the triangle template, either measuring from the stitching line or measuring from the edge of the fabric, depending on if you're working, say, as I mentioned for the airplane bag pattern. In that particular pattern, I advise you to measure from the very tip of the fabric. Barb says, is the precision turning tool for sale on your site? It is. This is the precision turning tool. There's a link in the description for the tool, I believe, unless I've forgotten it. It's in the notions section on my website, and actually my friend Trina Peterson showed me at the beginning of the year an additional use for this, because she uses it for a stiletto. So especially when she's sewing, for example, a zipper to a curved edge of fabric, she uses this round ball of metal to hold the fabric as she sews, so that even though her fabrics are pinned to the zipper, it's easier to get a nice crisp seam using this as a stiletto as well. Okay, any more questions, Danny, or are we good? All right. I was saying Tiara Hughes was asking me to show the Camp Stitch-A-Lot bag on the show because she wanted to see what it looked like sort of in person / live, and also she wanted to see what it looked like in reference to a person. So I do answer all my emails personally, and I like to save certain emails for demonstration ideas, or if people want to see things on the show. So I pulled out one of my Camp Stitch-A-Lot bag patterns, not patterns, sorry, projects. So this is the Camp Stitch-A-Lot, and I've got my 12-inch by 18-inch ruler inside. The funny thing about this particular cutting mat is this was my original cutting mat, and I was quilting with my friends one time, and I was saying, oh, let me pull out the big cutting mat. So I pulled out my big 12-inch by 18-inch cutting mat, and since then I've seen many other cutting mats, and I've learned that this is probably one of the smallest you could possibly have. So at the time I thought my mat was huge, but in reality it is not. So the side opposing the mat has a pocket with a magnetic snap to put patterns or other projects inside. There's also a flap with several magnets on it to deal with different fullness of the bag, or you can use Velcro. And on the inside of the bag is vinyl zippered pockets. So here's the inside of the bag. Again, lots of pockets on the inside. There are several clear vinyl zippered pockets on the inside, which you can sew dividers in if you'd like to make multiple pockets in each of your clear vinyl. The reason that Tiara was asking about this pattern is that I mentioned it was going to be part of the new 4-pack video bundle. We're shooting for the end of August for that, so it's 4 brand new videos The Camp Stitch a Lot bag is one of the projects in the bundle, so hopefully that gives you a good view of what that looks like in person in relation to the size of a person. Queen of Creative says, hello, happy Sunday, birthday bag lady here in Iowa, stepping away from my family to tune in. Happy birthday. I hope you had a beautiful day in Iowa. I hope the weather was really nice for you, and hopefully you got to do something fun for yourself today. All right, Danny's favorite part of the show. All the bag ladies and bag dudes, let me know in the comments. Go ahead and type that in right now, either bag lady or bag dude. I know I'm certainly a huge bag lady. I love the bag making community that has sort of formed around these two words, and I really love the support. I feel like especially when I talk to my husband Danny about sewing or the show, I feel like we've come to know so many people that join us for the live chats or are in the Facebook group by name, and so we'll be talking about this particular person, or Danny will be like, did you see the bag so-and-so made? And it's almost like, even though we've not met in person, so many of you have become part of our sewing family. So we really love those two words, and thanks so much for typing either bag lady or bag dude in the comments. All right. Paula says, Lynn Newberry, look at that. You were just talking about that.
Oh, that was a wrong.
Did you?
Pants wanted to know if there was going to be kits available.
Oh, okay. Danny said he put the wrong comment up. Pat was asking if there will be kits available. I'm assuming that means supply kits for the 4-pack video bundle. We will have supply kits up closer to the date. I haven't even made my list yet of what needs to go in each kit, but we will have supply kits, which are interfacing, zippers, and purse hardware needed to make those particular projects. So if you don't want to go run around looking for all the supplies you need to make those 4 projects, we'll have kits available, again, closer to the date, closer to the end of August. All right, so new fabric that I've added to my stash this week. I admit that I did not purchase the entire fabric line of this particular fabric line because I'm sort of running out of room, but I just purchased my very favorite prints, and so I'm going to slide over to the side camera and show you the fabrics that I did get. So the designer of this fabric line is Katerina Rochella. The fabric line is called Decadence, and it was designed for art gallery fabrics. So art gallery usually has different substrates for their lines, like knits, rayons, and of course quilting cottons. I for sure had to purchase this particular print. This exact print was only available in rayon, which is more of a garment fabric. I purchased 3 yards of this because I thought I'd maybe make a dress, a top, and I could probably use some of this for a bag. So I've used rayon for bags before, and when I did, I always attached the fabric to Shapeflex interfacing before I attached it to foam. Maybe you can see from the camera, the fabric has a bit of a drape to it and like a slight stretch, and so the Pellon Shapeflex eliminates all of the stretch and makes it, actually decent for bag making. So this was one of my favorite prints from the line, but let me show you the other prints that I got as well. So I definitely had some self-control when I purchased these fabrics because I only got the 4 different prints. So this print has so much going on, so I'm going to try to open it up and show you all of the different corners of the fabric, but the main feature of the fabric is the peacock. So let me see if I can get a good, there's the peacock right here. So beautiful peacock artwork. There's lots of bright florals in the fabric as well. And here's the coordinating print that I picked to go along with this, also from the same line, and I really like that it sort of mimics the head of the peacock, but in more of a kind of a damask print. So these were coordinating fabrics that I purchased, and let me show you the other 2 prints that I got as well. So this was a little bit more of a subdued colorway, again with the birds, and let me show you the peacock so I can share with you what the colors look like. So let me unfold this and find the peacock. Okay, there's the peacock in the middle. So as you can see, again, more subdued colors. This is the print that I purchased to go along with this fabric. So it's sort of a peachy fabric that matches the peachy florals. And I just love this print. I could see myself using it for a lot of different projects, even though it's sort of a stand to the side print to go along with the main peacock print. So again, the fabric line was called Decadence. It's designed by Katerina Rochella for Art Gallery Fabrics, and it just came out, so it's available right now, and you can get it in garment fabrics as well as the quilting cottons. All right, so my kids, over the weekend, we sort of gave them, we had to give them an ultimatum as far as limiting screen time, which I admit we've been a bit lax this summer. So I just wanted to show you a couple paintings that they worked on this weekend. I think Violet did 3 paintings and William did 2. So I just wanted to show you one from each. They've been having a blast. So we got them some canvases from Michael's and acrylic paints. So this is one of the paintings that Violet made, and she made a sort of lightning bugs at night. There's a moon. I like the bright colors that she used in her painting. And then William did sort of more of an abstract landscape scene. So this is William's artwork, and I liked the different grades of color from the sky to the land. So they've been having a lot of fun, and I promised them that I'd show that one of each of their paintings on the show. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. Do you like to paint or draw? So I admit that I went to school for art. My favorite part of art class was actually etching on plates and printmaking. So that was the thing that I was most into. We would etch and make designs on copper plates and then run them through a printing press with the plate and a piece of paper. So that was a lot of fun for me. I admit I'm not the best at painting or drawing, but I'm curious to know if you are. I know a lot of crafty folks like to do multiple things besides just sewing, so I'm interested to see if you also like to paint or draw. So, ooh, I'm gonna grab a drink from the side here. Oh, Danny's pop. Thanks, Danny. All right, so I thought it was really important to let you know that we have a shipping break coming up.
Nice product placement.
Oh, sorry. We have a shipping break coming up in August, and I'm going to mention this several times on our live shows before August 17th comes around. The shipping break is from August 17th through the 27th. So what that means is during this time, no physical orders will ship out. So this is really important to mention because, and it says so on the graphic as well, but if you order a digital item from us, so say for example, a PDF pattern or a video would be considered digital items. If your order only contains digital items, you may already be aware from past orders, but your order is fulfilled automatically. So when you order a PDF pattern by itself, you get an email automatically with link to download your pattern or your video. However, if you order PDF patterns as well as physical items like fabric, so say for example, if you order a PDF pattern with a piece of fabric, you may or may not know, but your order is not fulfilled until we ship your order. So that means your PDF patterns are not available until your order ships out, till we print the shipping label and close your order out. So that's important to note for the shipping break. If you're interested in PDF patterns or videos while we're gone on our shipping break, feel free to order those in a separate order. However, orders with physical products like notions, fabrics, acrylic templates, those will not ship out until we return from the shipping break, and that'll be after August 27th. So depending on the order load, we might need a day or two extra to get all of the orders out and everything shipped out. But just to let you know, again, the shipping break will be August 17th through the 27th, and we'll be posting reminders up until then because I just want to make sure everyone is aware, make sure that they get what they need. Also, to go along with that shipping break, we will have no live shows on August 19th or 21st. So I'm very sad to say that we will be missing 2 of our live shows. We really hate to miss the live shows, but I want to again make sure people are aware in advance, because I'd hate for people to be on those 2 days sitting around waiting for the shows or fitting it into their day and then there's no show. So again, no live shows on August 19th or on August 21st. Okay, so time for the book review. So once in a while I like to swap out a pattern review for a book review. So today's patterns are from the pattern company Country Caboodle. I'm going to step over to the side camera and show you those 2 patterns that I picked up in the overhead camera. All right, so these are the 2 patterns I purchased. I was drawn to these patterns because I saw that Country Caboodle had dozens of different dog applique patterns. I only purchased 2, but like I said, there's dozens of different dog breeds, so lots of choices available. I picked up the Australian Shepherd and the Yellow Lab. There's patterns available as well as kits with pre-fused fabric with interfacing. So in my Australian Shepherd kit, I got these different fabrics already fused to the interfacing, and there's like little buttons right here which are for the inside of the eyes, I believe. And in the yellow lab kit, this is what I received, the fabrics again attached to the interfacing. So I have to say a little bit about the Australian Shepherd. So my very first dog was the Australian Shepherd. We had dogs when I was in high school and college. My very first dog came about because of my first job. So my very first job was at a dog boarding and grooming kennel. So over the holidays, sometimes we would have up to 300 dogs in the kennel. So over the years, I've gotten to see all different dog breeds and gotten to have one-on-one contact with all the breeds. And so I did a lot of research and reading up on the Australian Shepherd. Somehow I convinced my parents to get one. Our first dog was called, his name was Harley. He was a blue merle, which is sort of a gray coat with some white and black spots, and he had some copper markings too. He actually had one brown eye and one blue eye, so that was Harley. And I just couldn't pass up getting these two patterns. So they have the illustrations in the patterns to cut out the pattern pieces, as well as basic instructions for how to do applique. So you know, not a whole lot to show you about these patterns because I don't want to show all of the insides with the illustrations and the templates, but I was really excited to get these, and I just wanted to show you on the camera. So another exciting thing about the Country Caboodle dog patterns, again, there's so many breeds available. There's an actual dog quilt with about 12 different breeds, but if you are looking for specific breeds, they have those available by the block, as I showed you in the side camera. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. Have you done any applique before? So just go ahead and type in the comments right now, yes or no to the applique. I admit I've only done sparing applique in the past. I admit my current machine is straight stitch only. The applique that I did in the past was with a blanket stitch. So either I'll have to console myself with doing the raw edge applique, or perhaps get a backup machine for the blanket stitch. But I know many of you do some brilliant applique, and I've seen especially some applique done on bags posted in the Facebook group. So I know a lot of you do applique as well, and perhaps I'll have to get into applique a bit more in the future. So my demonstration for today is how to add side pockets to any bag. So I wanted to demonstrate how to add side pockets to a bag because I've gotten a lot of questions on how to do that lately. I pulled two bags out of my stash just because I wanted to talk through adding the side pockets, and there's two different types of side pocket that needs to be added dependent on the design of the bag. So the first bag that I pulled out is the Tudor bag, and the reason that I pulled out this particular bag is this bag has a side panel with a clear seam on the bottom of the bag. So the side panel is connected to the bottom with a seam. The second bag that I pulled out is the Cumberland backpack, and this backpack has a zipper panel connected to the side, and as you can see, there's no bottom seam over here. So the reason that I pulled out these two bags is that depending on what type of bag you're looking for, because I wanted to give you generic instructions on how to add a side pocket, I'm going to show you two different side pockets as well as a mesh pocket, and the only distinction that you'll need to know is if the bag that you're working on has no bottom seam like the Cumberland backpack, or if it had a clear seam from the side to the bottom like the Tudor bag did. So those are the two things you need to keep in mind. You also need to keep in mind the height that you want your pocket to be. Naturally it'll be fitting within the side seam, but you'll need to keep the height in mind. For today's demonstration, I cut all of my pieces for a 6-inch tall unfinished pocket. If you're making the pocket for specific things like water bottles, you might want to make it a little bit taller or shorter depending on your needs, but just so you're aware, that's what I've prepared for today's demonstration. So I'm going to pull all my items over to the side camera and show you everything in the side screen. So I'm going to go ahead and start with just a regular flat pocket, and this is my fabric samples that I've prepared for a bag that has the bottom seam. And so when you're working with a pocket where you're attaching the pocket to the side panel and there's a bottom seam, you don't need to finish the bottom edge. So what I did was, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I just went ahead and sewed 2 pieces of fabric right sides together along just the top edge. So I've gone ahead and done that with my fabric sample. And then the second step to that process is pressing those fabrics wrong sides together and then top stitching this top edge. So I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance to top stitch that top edge, and that finishes the top edge of the pocket before you add it into the side seam. So I've pulled a piece of interfacing to simulate the side of the bag. Again, it'll be attached to fabric, but I just wanted the white to distinguish so you could see the pocket from the side panel. So here's the side panel piece. Here's the bottom edge where it will be attached to the bottom seam of the bag. And to attach that flat pocket, you'll just go ahead and base the sides and the bottom and then sew the bag as usual, and you've got that pocket right there. If you're working on a pocket with for a bag like the Cumberland backpack where there's no clear bottom seam, you'll need to finish the top edge as well as the bottom edge. So again, I've cut my 2 fabrics right sides together. They're the same width as the side panel, and I've sewn the top edge and the bottom edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So after doing that, I went ahead and pressed both of the fabrics wrong sides together. However, I only top stitched the top edge because we want that top edge to be finished, because that will be the opening for the pocket. So this edge is just pressed but not top stitched, but as you can see, there's no raw edge on the bottom. So again, here's my side panel. We're assuming that there is no seam attaching the side panel to the bottom panel. So again, you'll just be basting the side, just the side edges, and then also sewing the bottom edge using an 1/8 inch just to make that an actual pocket for that Cumberland backpack or whatever bag you're working on that does not have a bottom seam attached to the side panel. So I also wanted to show you a couple different other pockets. So I wanted to show you a gathered pocket. So for example, not a flat pocket, but a pocket with a little bit of give. So for example, if you're placing a water bottle inside. So again, I've got my 2 fabrics right sides together. It's the same width as the other pocket that I showed you previously, which is 5 inches across the bottom because I'm allowing for a 5-inch wide side panel. However, as you can see, it kind of veers out on the 2 side edges. So I measured out 2 inches. So this is 2 inches out from the top edge, and same thing over here to give it a little bit of extra width on the top edge. Again, I sewed the pieces right sides together using a 1/4 inch along that top edge. And then I pressed those 2 fabrics so that they were wrong sides together, so it looks like this. Okay, so next my top stitching is going to be a little bit different. So for this particular example, I decided to top stitch 1 inch down from the finished edge. So this was the finished edge that I pressed, and I top stitched 1 inch down from that edge. So the reason that I top stitched 1 inch down from that edge is that I wanted to make a casing for elastic, and since this casing is 1 inch wide, you can use a variety of different widths of elastic. I went ahead and pulled out 1/8 of an inch wide elastic, but you can use 1/2 inch wide, 3/4 of an inch, whatever you have on hand. And I find it easier to thread elastic through casings using a bodkin. So this is a simple bodkin. I like it better than a safety pin because I've ripped many safety pins out through the process in the past. And so what the bodkin does is it just kind of grips the end of the elastic, and you push this metal circle down and it holds it firmly in place so that it doesn't come unhooked. So you just kind of push that elastic through and make sure you, of course, anchor the other end with either a pin or with stitching. And I'm going to do that in just a second when I pull my bodkin further through. So I'm going to take my Wonder Clip and hold that elastic in place until I can sew it in place. And then you pull the elastic through the other end and it gathers the pocket so that you can attach it to the side panel. Again, this is for a pocket attached to a bag with a clear side and bottom seam. So again, I'm going to pull my side panel piece out, and I'm just going to go ahead and pin that fabric so that it's even with the side edge of my side panel. And grab some more Wonder Clips from over here. And again, you want to make sure that the bottom and the side edges are aligned. And then you'll just baste those in place. So when I come to this side edge, I know I've got my bodkin hanging through that. Let me move that out of the way. And then you'll just pin that in place. And then you have a nice gathered pocket, and you have room to place a water bottle or other items inside. Let me get that hooked on. There you go. See, as you can see, you can fit other items inside. So this is the gathered pocket for a pocket with a bottom seam. And again, if you're making one with no clear bottom seam, you'll just want to sew these right sides together so that you have that bottom edge finished so that you can attach it in the middle of your side panel. Okay, so I have one last pocket to show you just because I had to think of all the different options, and that was for, I had a request for a pocket with mesh. So first of all, for a pocket with mesh, you need to finish the top or both the top and the bottom edges with binding so that you don't have just raw mesh showing on your bag. So for this particular example, because I'm using the 1/8 of an inch wide elastic, I cut my binding strips 2.5 inches wide by the top edge of the fabric. So again, I'm using the gathered pocket, and I measured 2 inches out from each side just to give myself room for the gathering. If you're using wider elastic, if you're using a 1/4 of an inch wide elastic, you'll want to use a binding strip that's not 2.5 inches wide, but 3 inches wide. Okay, so again, here's my binding that I cut 2.5 inches. And I went ahead and sewed it to the top edge of my piece of mesh using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so again, I'm going to cut my elastic to the same width as the bottom of the pocket because that's what I preferred as far as that goes. So what you're going to do is you're going to press the seam away from the mesh and then bring that folded edge of the binding down so that it meets the edge on the opposite side. So that creates a really tiny casing to thread your elastic through, and then just go ahead and top stitch this lower edge using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I've got another little step out prepared for that. So as you can see, here's my binding. It has a nice finished edge on the top, and as I said, if you're not sewing this bottom edge into a seam, you'll want to attach the binding to the bottom edge as well. So let me show you how to get that elastic inside the binding to make it a gathered pocket. So again, I'm going to use my bodkin and securely attach the edge of the bodkin to the elastic so that it doesn't come undone. And then I'm just going to go ahead and thread that bodkin through the binding, and it's a tight fit. Again, like I mentioned, if you're going to be using wider elastic, you want to cut your fabric piece wider, so 3 inches wide instead. All right, let me get that going inside. And then you'll just want to thread that all the way through. Oh, I think I caught that on something. Let me try it through the opposite end. All right. Okay, so as I pull the elastic through, again, you want to anchor that elastic so that you don't pull it all the way through the casing. When I was practicing this before, I got a little too ambitious and I pulled the elastic all the way through, and then I removed the bodkin so that I actually had elastic stuck in my fabric. So you don't want that to let that happen. As you pull a little bit more through, you want to make sure you get that secured with a pin. And then of course you'll want to stitch that in place, and then I'm going to pull the bodkin through the other end. Okay, so I'm going to remove the bodkin and just go ahead and put a wonder clip in place, and then let me show you what it looks like attached to what I'm using as my side panel. So as you can see, it has nice gathers, and you want to make sure you get everything pinned in place so that you can stitch it to your side panel. And again, if you need to have the bottom edge of that pocket finished, make sure you add the binding to the bottom edge as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it up the sides just so that I can show you what it looks like all finished and nice and gathered. And then you'll just want to stitch this down, again, the sides and the bottom using an 1/8 of an inch seam. And then as you construct your bag, you'll cover those seams when you sew the side panel to the front and the back of the bag and to the bottom edge. So that's a really nice gathered pocket for your water bottles or other things inside your bag. And that's my rather long-winded demonstration on how to add several different types of pockets if it's not included in the instructions. So again, that looks pretty neat. It seems pretty easy to do, and you can use my general guidelines and measurements to add either of those 3 styles of pocket to any bag that you're making, such as the Tudor bag or the Cumberland backpack. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. If you enjoy our live shows, our sewing tutorials, our bag making videos, I hope you'll share this sewing video with your other sewing friends. If you're watching on Facebook, I'd like to invite you now to hit the share button. Share this video with your other sewing friends, regardless if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. At the very least, I'd like you to at least hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, which looks like a little thumbs up icon. YouTube and Facebook look very favorably on videos that have lots of likes and shares, and they consider sharing that particular video with other people that may have not seen our videos before but might be interested in the topic of sewing. And so your likes and shares really helps us out so much. So thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate that. So I wanted to let you know that the winner of last week's giveaway was Heather Conley. So congratulations to Heather. Heather won 3 pieces of our new faux leathers, the top grain faux leathers. So congratulations to Heather. I've already contacted Heather on social media for her mailing information. I'm going to answer a few questions live, and then we'll get on to this week's giveaway. So if you have a question for me, either a sewing related question, bag making related, if you have a question about a sewing tool or notion, go ahead and type that in the comments right now. And my husband Danny's going to put some of the questions up on the screen, and I'll answer them live.
You had a few questions about why didn't you use SF101 or interfacing in the pockets?
That's a great question, and I meant to mention that. Danny said that there were some questions during my demonstration for the pocket why I did not add interfacing to my pocket pieces. So for sure, when you're cutting out your pocket fabric, you definitely do want to add Pollen shape flex to all of your pocket pieces to stabilize the pocket. Especially if you're putting things like water bottles inside, you definitely need Pollen shape flex. For my demonstration, obviously I knew this was not ever going to be a finished pocket for a bag, so I skipped the interfacing, but please do make sure you use the Pollen shape flex when you make your pockets for your bag. Okay, Danny's going to put some questions on the screen for me. Glorimar says, will you guys get the zipper pocket template? So I have not decided on a design for a zipper pocket template yet. Our template makers, Ed and Robin, are actually in the middle of a move right now, an out-of-state move. So we're giving them, well, they do need a break from making the templates for us so they can complete their move. So it'll be probably late August before we can get restocks on templates or new templates in, but something that's definitely on my list for a future template. Sonia says, will it be difficult to add a flap to the Baker Street bag? I think it'll be really simple. Let me pull up one of my Baker Street bags from behind me. So this is the Baker Street bag, and Glorimar was asking about adding a flap from the back to the front. So when you choose your flap, you'll just need to have exterior and lining fabrics. I'm assuming you'll want a magnetic snap in that. So you'll sew all of that together first, and then when you sew the exterior portions of the bag together, you'll just attach that flap, raw edges aligned with the back of the bag, and then of course you'll need to add the other half of the magnetic snap to the front of your bag, and the placement will depend on the flap that you've designed, how far you want the flap to come down, and all of that. So definitely you can add a flap to the Baker Street bag, and it would, feel like it would be pretty easy to do so. Audra says, I'm working on the cotton candy bag. What size, as in length, do I use for this? So all of my patterns are written as length times height. So that means, I'll use my notebook as an example. So length times height right here. And when I ask for you to sew the bottom edge, say of the cotton candy pouch, you'll be sewing the bottom edge as one of the length measurements like this. If you're ever not sure, or if you have a question about which edge to show, or if it's not apparent from the video that goes along with the cotton candy pouch, you can always feel free to email me, especially if I don't get to your question live on the show. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's a Sarah with no H. Cheryl says, have you been able to use your new embroidery machine yet? We just used it very briefly. I sort of let Danny do the initial work on the embroidery machine. He did a few pieces with Violet, and it's sitting in our kitchen because that's the only space, the only spot that we had room for it, but we haven't had a lot time to do a lot with it. Summer's just been kind of hectic with the kids being home and us doing more things out and about, but we're definitely not putting it to the side or anything like that. Leanne says, do you have a kit on the red and blue purse? Love this purse or a pattern. Red and blue Sublime bag? Okay. We do have a supply kit available for the Sublime bag, if this is the red and blue purse that you're talking about. We do have also a PDF pattern and a video for this, as well as a paper pattern if you prefer paper patterns to videos, but the supply kit contains the interfacing, the zippers, and the purse hardware, because there's purse feet on the bottom, to make this bag. Beth says, if you were making a bag that had a drawstring and grommets, could you use cork for that, or would it be too stiff? That's a good question. I think maybe the top band, if you were able to make the body of the purse with cork and maybe the top band with another material, either something coordinating, something maybe more flexible, maybe quilting cotton or rayon, I think that would be better, because that top area of the bag with the drawstring takes a lot of stress from cinching the bag and then uncinching it, and I think the cork might be a little bit too much stress for the cork, but I definitely think the body of the bag for sure could be made out of the cork fabric, just possibly not that top band where the grommets go through. Tanya Lee says, have you ever used the strip stick for opening seams? I do. It was on my desk. I think it's in my sewing cabinet right over here. I liked it especially for pressing seams open, and I showed it a few months ago in a Notions demo on the show. I really love it for pressing seams, and the strip stick, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of a hill-shaped stick, so it allows the seams to sort of fall open and allows your iron to get in there more easily and press seams open, and it's also great for bag seams, especially if you're pressing bag seams either to the side or open. Linda says, is there a time frame for your out-of-stock Tula Pink fabric to be in stock? So we're waiting on our third shipment. They sent us some more of the bat prints, which we'll be using for bag packs number 1, 2, and 3. We had some bat prints paired with the large-scale Tula prints with the faces. Those have not shipped yet, but we've been billed for them. We do have a new out-of-stock feature on our website. If you have not seen it yet, any of our product listings that are out of stock, you can go ahead and enter your email address on our website on that particular product listing, and you'll be automatically emailed when we relist that product as being back in stock. So if you'd rather not continue to check, you can go ahead and enter your email address on the website in the product listing of the out of stock that you're watching for, and we'll email you when it's back in stock. Judy says, will you make this a short educational video for sewing the side pocket? Yes, Danny actually, during our live chats, he records certain portions of the chat. For instance, the demonstration with the acrylic templates at the beginning of the show, and also the demonstration with the side pockets. We segregate those particular videos so that we can post them individually on Facebook and YouTube and on our website so that they're easier to find. So that's on my list for tomorrow, because I know a lot of people have asked for it, and we want to make sure it's easier for everyone to find those particular videos. Kathy says, will templates be available for the August bundle, and will they be available at the same time, maybe a bundled order? So let me think. I'm trying to think of the pattern pieces. I think we will actually be able to have acrylic templates for some of the August patterns. I'll have to take a close look at them and make sure that the pattern pieces are not too huge to use for templates, or to make them economically possible. I do know for our new set of minikins that are coming out in October, we will have acrylic templates for those as well. I guess I just have to get my ducks in a row and just look at everything closely and make sure it makes sense to make templates for patterns, because some patterns, like for example, the emblem duffel bag, it has a gigantic pattern piece, and it wouldn't be economically sound or shippably sound to have acrylic templates for that particular pattern. But small ones like the Annex double zip box pouch, for sure we want to look into templates for those. So after Ed and Robin finish their move, I'm going to be visiting some of my patterns, or at least some of my best-selling patterns, and see which patterns it makes sense to have acrylic template offerings for. Jeff wants to know, are you and Danny going to QuiltCon? So we don't have plans to go to QuiltCon yet. I've actually never been to QuiltCon, but I believe it's going to be in Tennessee in February, I believe. If we happen to move to Tennessee, I'm sure we'll for sure be there, because I'm curious to see what it's like and what it's all about, and I'd love to see the show. So for now, we don't have plans to go, but we may open up to plans to go in the future. Penny says, keep doing what you are doing. I am now only making your patterns because I am a visual learner. The videos are awesome. I'm giving the cotton candy pouch to women's shelters for the holidays. That is a great cause. I really like people that are, the word's not coming to me, but I know many of us are blessed, especially watching the show together on Sundays and sewing together, and to be helping those that are in difficult situations like that is so wonderful, and I'm so glad the videos are helping. And that's just such a wonderful thing to be sewing for others, especially for those in need. Lisa says, are there different grades of cork? So there are different grades. We carry a grade of cork called Touch Pro. It comes to us from Portugal, and it is a UV treated, scotch guarded cork fabric with a fabric backing, so easy to sew but still very durable. And I've had customers that have purchased cork because we've been selling it for almost 3 years now. I've had customers that have made bags already for a year or two, and the bags are still holding up brilliantly. So Touch Pro is the type of cork that we sell on our website. Carol wants to know, what is your website address? So our website is So Sweetness, and our logo is in the corner of the screen, and so you can find the spelling, but it's SEW and then the word sweetness.com. Oh, thank you. Jennifer posted in the comments, and there's the website right there. So thanks. Thank you, Jennifer. Diane says, will you do an acrylic template for the Cumberland backpack soon, please? So I know I had a bunch of requests in the Facebook group for that one. I just struggle with the Cumberland backpack because we have it in 2 different sizes, and there's a lot. That's probably the pattern that I have with the most pattern pieces, and not only the most, but like large pattern pieces as well. So I have a feeling the Cumberland backpack would be an expensive acrylic template pack. But I thought possibly if we only offered it in one size, like for example, size large of the Cumberland backpack is the most popular size, perhaps it would be more economical if we only offered it in the one size. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you'd be open to the acrylic template in just the one size for the Cumberland backpacks. I'm curious to know about that. Sue said, I got the Minikins templates because I signed up to be emailed when in stock. Thanks. Oh, I'm so glad that worked out for you. I don't know why we didn't implement that on the website sooner, but we had, it seemed, a bunch of requests for that lately. So I contacted my web developer, Web Sarah, and she put it up on the site immediately, and I'm happy that it worked as it should. So feel free to take advantage of that if there's something that you're watching that's currently out of stock. And Mirta says, there's a few of us going to QuiltCon. Yeah, I heard there were a bunch of people sharing either a house or a bunch of rooms together, so I definitely would love to go. It sounds like a lot of fun. It's in February. Danny's asking when it is. It's in February. I think this February, I believe it's in Tennessee. I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's been in other areas in the past, California, Atlanta, Georgia, I believe. Yeah, it would be really fun to go. Tiara says, what is the name of the fabric on your double zipper pouch? So this fabric is designed by Victoria Finlay Wolfe. I think the fabric line was called Mostly Manor. I had to think about that for a second, but I think I'm right. It was a beautiful fabric line with lovely florals, and I purchased a few yards of another print from this line. It was a black and white print, and it wasn't exactly a stripe, but it was intersecting stripes of black and white colors, and it was just really awesome. I haven't used it for a bag yet, but I have it really high on my list. But this was Mostly Manor by Victoria Finlay Wolfe. Christine says, I'm waiting for the new Minikins. I'm so excited about the new Minikins. I feel like I've been working on them since the beginning of, I want to say the beginning of the year, but at least beginning of spring. And I feel like they're all, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like they're all pretty strong and useful for specific things, and I'll show you more. We'll be sharing the projects, I believe, in September and October, so not too much longer to go before we start sharing what the projects look like, but I'm really, really excited about that. Kim wants to know, can you tell us the patterns that will be in the new mannequins for October? Yeah, so starting in starting in September, we'll maybe every live show we'll show 1 or 2 of the projects till we get to the final reveal, all 12, at the end of October. Karen said there should be a bag con. Oh, that would be awesome. That would be really fun. Danny's nodding his head too.
I think that's it.
That's it? All right, Danny's cutting me off from the questions tonight, so let's get over to the giveaway. Let me pull out the giveaway pack for this week. So I decided to pull out lots of prints from the new line by Tula Pink called De La Luna. So this is sort of a, I'm calling it a scrap pack, but these are all relatively large scraps, so maybe between ½ yard to a yard, all big pieces of fabric. Let me show you in the side camera what's included in the pack. So I tried to include almost all of the fabrics from De La Luna, and we do have some of the packs left in the shop. But as you can see, and here's the main print from the line, these are great fabrics, lovely colors, nice large scale prints if you like large scale prints for bags. I really love this green. It's like an interesting pop to go along with some of the other fabrics in the line, like this particular one. This one's called Venus. Okay, so all you have to do to enter the giveaway, it will be one randomly drawn winner. I'll choose the winner at the end of the day this Saturday. All you have to do to enter is answer this question in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Just log in to either Facebook or YouTube, answer this question in the comments. The question is, what is your favorite summertime activity? So just go ahead and type that in the comments right now. My favorite summertime activity is going to the pool. I also love reading. I mean, I love reading any time of year, but I have a dream one day to get a hammock in our yard. Perhaps if we move, that'll be a possibility. But to get a hammock and just lay in the hammock and read books all day, that just sounds really lovely to me. So let me know in the comments what your favorite summertime activity is, and I'll draw a random winner and announce it on next week's show. So thank you so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. I had a lot of fun today. Had a lot of fun showing you that side pocket demo in particular. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you again next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Happy sewing.